It could be the most consequential handshake of the year. The stage is being set. Trump and Putin face to face again. Only this time, the stakes could not be higher. Trump and Putin are slated to hold direct talks in the coming days, and if reports are correct, their meeting could happen as soon as the 11th of August. It's been a dramatic day in global diplomacy, in fact. The Russian president was busy on the phone today, first with the Indian Prime Minister, then with the Chinese president. And these calls came just hours after the Russian presidential aide, Yuri Yushakov, confirmed that Moscow and Washington had agreed on a Trump-Putin summit. What's the plan? Sometime next week, but the final date depends on how the talks unfold in the run-up. And here's the trigger. On August 6th, special U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff visited Moscow and held a 3-hour meeting with Vladimir Putin. Now, according to Fox News, the summit may happen in Rome on August 11. But the Russians are not sold on the venue. According to TASS, which is Russia's official news agency, Rome is out of the question. The Russians, it seems, do not want Europe to be the stage for this meeting. In fact, it makes sense because the timing of this meeting could not be more critical. US President Donald Trump has started a trade war. He has become frustrated that he has not been able to stop the Ukraine war. And as a result, he has turned that frustration inward, in a way, towards his allies, it seems. India, which has continued to buy Russian oil, is facing a massive 50% tariff from the US. Trump claims India's purchases are fueling Putin's war machine. But if this move was intended to twist New Delhi's arm, it's not working. India has not buckled. Instead, New Delhi has remained in dialogue with Russia, engaging BRICS partner Brazil, even finding common ground with China. In the face of Trump's trade tantrums, Indian officials have made it clear that Indian companies are free to source from whoever they want. But as is evident, Trump's tariff war might just be his way of trying to pressurize Putin through India, using New Delhi's Russia ties to push Moscow into a corner. And India is not alone, by the way. China, though granted a brief extension, is also on Trump's radar. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Modi had this to say after speaking with Putin. Just hours ago, he tweeted, I'm quoting here, had a very good and detailed conversation with my friend, President Putin. I thanked him for sharing the latest developments on Ukraine. We also reviewed the progress in our bilateral agenda and reaffirmed our commitment to further deepen the India-Russia special and privileged strategic partnership. I look forward to hosting President Putin in India later this year, quote unquote. On China's side, President Xi Jinping laid out his position, and according to Reuters, Xi Jinping told Putin that China will continue to promote peace talks and that it is glad to see Russia and America remain in contact and improve relations. The two sides, China and Russia, also reinforced their mutual trust and strategic coordination, pledging to work closely on the upcoming Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit in Tianjin. What about Europe? According to European analysts, Trump-Putin meeting is the best shot at peace in years. They say that if the meeting does not go ahead, war on Ukraine will face a very bad situation.
If this meeting next week does not take place, we at least are confronted with a very bad situation for Ukraine, because it does mean that the Russian offensive goes on from the air and on the ground, which does mean that the cities will be bombed every single night, as long as the Russians have the drones and the means for that, which they do have. For the Americans, in particular Mr. Trump, it does mean that he can't go home with the laureate and say, I brought peace to Ukraine, and which does mean that he has to do something now against Russia, which he tries to avoid since his presidency.
And the Polish Prime Minister also weighed in. Listen in.
There are certain signals, and I also have an intuition that perhaps a freeze in the conflict, I don't want to say the end of the war, but a freeze in the conflict is closer than it is further away. There are hopes for this. The Ukrainian side is very keen for Europe, including Poland, to participate in the planning of this future ceasefire and subsequently peace.
What about the country at war, Ukraine? Well, the president says he is very cautious but optimistic. He says that talks should also involve Ukraine.
Everyone obviously knows for sure that the key decisions in Russia are made by one person, and that this person is afraid of sanctions from the United States of America, and that it is right for Ukraine to be a participant in the negotiations. Russia's war is against Ukraine, against our independence as the embodiment of the independence of every European nation.
Now let's talk numbers. Trump's deadline for a ceasefire deal expiring on August 8th, that's today. And if Putin does not agree, the US is ready to slap 100% tariffs on any country buying Russian oil. But Putin remains unfazed, it seems. He believes that Russia is winning. According to reports, Moscow does not think more sanctions will do much. What with 3.5 years of war, countless economic penalties already in place. And here's what's happening on the ground here. Russia has captured 502 square kilometers of Ukraine in July alone. And that is some of the biggest gains of 2025. In total, Russia now controls about a fifth of Ukrainian territory. There's been heavy casualties on both sides. Even Russian military bloggers say that the summer offensive has been slow and bloody, especially in dense urban terrain. But Putin's goal is clear: complete control of Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, Kherson, and then only then will he talk peace. So can Trump deliver the breakthrough that the world is waiting for, is the question. And will Trump pass Putin's test?